So a little bit about Brock Powell, who is our moderator. Oh, in case you don't know me, my name is Eric, and I oversee the VLAB program. Cool. Yeah. So Brock Powell, he wrote this earlier today, is a proud SAG-AFTRA actor and voice actor who spends too much time watching cartoons and playing video games. You've heard him in video games such as God of War and in Milo Murphy's Law on the Disney Channel, and as the official voice of the Kool-Aid Man. All right, let's give it up. Brock Powell.
Thanks, man. Look how tall I am. I can just get up here. This is amazing. Man, this is, I like this. It's like a keynote. Welcome to Apple. We're very excited. We're going to unveil a phone you don't need. How are you guys doing? Awesome. Well, I am unbelievably excited to be here tonight because on the stage with me in mere moments are three titans of interactive and animation, and we've got some great questions for them. I don't want to take any more of this time, so what I wrote, because if I read their credits, it would be longer than the time that we have to actually do this whole Q&A. So I wrote this. These three actors' IMDb's are longer than the last Avenger movie when read aloud. Which is funny, because some of these panelists have voiced the Avengers. Their work expands the galaxy, even the one far, far away. Oh. And dimensions, that's right, 2D, 3D, and the Lego variety. Watch your feet, watch where you step. We've got people from Lego shows here, that's dangerous. And I love this fact, all three of them have some connection to the Transformer universe. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, with that, let's get ready to roll, if you will. And let's introduce Trevor Duvall, Kari Walgren, and Ian James Corlett. Woo! All right. Thanks, man. Shake the hand. That's good. Hey-o.
How does this thing work?
Well,
Doctor.
right. How are you guys doing?
So, like, it's so living room. I love
Right,
it.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
A great space.
Hello.
Hi. Oh my goodness.
Guys, SAG-AFTRA actors. SAG-AFTRA actors, guys.
Hi.
Yeah.
All of you are incredibly brave, by the way. Seriously, and I mean that like in the most wonderful, wonderful way, because being an actor is challenging at times. So the fact that you're all showing up and supporting us and supporting each other, hopefully, is really cool.
Right. Absolutely. Come on. That's great. Well, no. That you're.
Yeah, was that too just too to start the thing?
Oh, it's going to be like that, is it?
Well, the importance of humility. We'll lose that. That's fine. That's the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. No, it actually leads me to one of the questions that I had, or I was going to ask you guys. So we're going to talk about how these amazingly talented actors got started, and how they got started in voiceover specifically. What are the things that led you to discovering you had a talent for voiceover? And I'm gonna open it this way. I would love to know some first voiceover experiences. What was your first voiceover job? What was the first time you realized you could get paid doing voices? What was the first time you got replaced on a show? Because that happens. That it's a part of our industry. It's not fun, but also that is something that I think is important to know.
Sign of a professional, actually.
Right, I think so.
Once you've been replaced.
Yeah.
I made it, Ma! I'm no longer on that show!
I was fired, mother. But truly, right? And how do you handle yourself with a certain level of grace when someone else,
That's
a fellow
personal.
actor? So Ian, can I start with you? Since the mic's closest to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer your question sort of with two parts.
Okay.
The first time I realized that I could do something with my voice was when I was a filmmaker. As a little kid, I made animated films, and I would do these bad soundtracks to them, and I did it all myself. So that was my first entry into this stuff, and I had some success on the student filmmaker kind of festival circuit. I was like 16. It was crazy. But then the first time I actually realized that I could be paid to do something with my voice. It was a commercial for a workout company in Vancouver, and it was the worst thing you'd ever. I just found the tape the other day. It was awful, just awful. So, just a little more detail. When you're making your demo tapes, we call them demo tapes. They're not tapes. Your demos.
When you're cutting them
Yeah,
under
exactly.
that's right. And then you're making your
We
tape.
used to press them on wax.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tape,
Just
cassette,
look at a
everything.
page
Anyway,
and yell at it.
The first ones are always bad. That's what I'm just going to tell you. It doesn't matter who it is. I don't care who does them. Your first demo is going to suck. And I say that because mine did. So take heart. That's all.
No, that's great. That's great. I think that's great advice. I think practice is the prolonged exposure to sucking and then eventually getting better at something, right? So yeah, again, that's kind of part of it. Kari, can I ask you the same question? First time you realized you could do voiceover, first time, maybe your first voiceover gig, or the first time you realized like, oh, this is a skill.
It was really early, actually. It was strange. You know, I was obsessed with cartoons when I was a kid, and so I'd run around the house and I would act out all of the cartoons that I was watching, and I would read stories to my parents, and I would act out all the voices. And apparently, when I was a kid, I told my parents, "I'm going to be the voice of a Disney cartoon one day." So I had a weird sense, even then, that there was somebody behind the cartoons that were making the voices. And my first, so I was always like recording my voice on cassette tape and acting things out around the house. And there was this place that did a radio drama that I really liked. And so it was in California, and I was on a vacation with my parents, and it was on my 11th birthday, and we were doing a tour of this company.
What was the company?
It was they did Adventures in Odyssey, which is a little radio
That's
drama, and I
kismet,
would
that's
listen
right.
to them in the car. And so I was on the tour, and they had a little studio in there, and they said, "We are looking to cast roughly an 11-year-old girl in a thing. Would your daughter like to audition?" And I said, "Sure, I would. I'd really love that." And so I went into the studio and auditioned for this part, and they cast me right there on the spot. And they actually, because I was a little runty, they actually ended up pitching my voice down just a tiny bit in the finished product because I was like just a little bit high. And I got paid for that. Like, I got paid like an honest to God check, and I remember that I went out and I bought gum. I was like, I'm living large. And I bought gum, and I was like, here you go, fine sir, a check for that package of gum. And then after that, it was crazy because the doors had been open. I'm like, oh my gosh, people can do this and people can get paid money for it. And so I continued to love cartoons, and one of the cartoons that I got really obsessed with was Batman the Animated Series. And I remember that my dad would clip out newspaper clippings and put them on the fridge, and so I was just waiting for that show to air because all the newspaper clippings about it would be up on the refrigerator. And so I remember that after that came out, I would like come home from school every time it was on, and I'd like watch it. And at the end, I remember watching the credits, and it was like voice direction, Andrea Romano. And I was like, she must be a genius. And so I went to the bookstore, and I looked up some book that gave like Warner Brother addresses or something like that. And I wrote her a letter when I was about 14 years old, and I was like, I just wanted to tell you what an amazing job on the casting and voice direction that you do on Batman the Animated Series, and I'd like you to know that one day I'm going to move out to Los Angeles and do voiceovers, and I really truly hope that we get to work together one day. And I don't know that she ever got that letter, but years later I got hired as charm caster in Ben 10 oh my God, and I'm going to get emotional. And I showed up, and she was the director. And I'm just like, don't lose your crap, Kari. Yeah, so that was a little full circle thing for me.
You know, just to jump in, I have a very similar story with Andrea Romano, but later. Yeah.
You should share that.
I will. But Mr. Duvall
He doesn't have anything
I have nothing to say. I have
I'm
nothing
kidding.
to add. Everyone knows my story.
He has a ton to say.
That's
well,
Trevor's
unlike-
charm. He believes everyone knows everything about him.
That's true. Unlike Kari, I knew nothing about cartoons when I was. I mean, I knew I liked them, but when I first moved to Vancouver, actually, where I got started, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should do voice work for a living." And I went, "Voice? What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, like cartoons and stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, those are actors." Do they draw it in front of a live studio audience too? Yeah. So I was dumb. Long and the short of it. But no, I was doing accents and stuff since I was a little kid. My brother used to do an old Scottish race car commentator, Jackie Stewart, around the dinner table, and Jackie Stewart used to be very, very excitable. Jackie used to be a driver, a race car driver, and he had this thing where he'd be commentating on the race, and the cars, as they would back in those days, would invariably flip out and hit the wall and explode. And Jackie's thing was, "Oh no, he's burst into flames!" That was a big thing. My brother used to imitate that around the table, and he would take things like the salt and pepper shaker. He'd say, "Oh, pass the salt and pepper shaker." So I give it to him, and "Oh, it's a good day for a race today. Look at this, we've got salt and pepper. Oh, look at that, pepper's pooling out in front like this. Oh, salt's coming around the outside. Oh no, he's starting to lose control. Oh no, he burst into flames!" And everybody would go, "Oh," and I'd watch this, going, funny voice equals pathway to power. Yes, remember that. So I did, and I usurped him at the punchline one day. He was doing ketchup and mustard. "Oh, mustard and ketchup are going around. Oh no, ketchup is not at all ironically catching up. Oh, look at this!" And just as he got to the big thing, I said, "And he bursts into flames!" And everybody stopped and looked, and and I went, "Oh yes, it works. Remember." So that's how that started.
See, that's the first taste of show business for you was ketchup, minty fresh gum. Ian, was there any flavor associated with your success?
None.
Good, that's fine. No, this is important. Well, can we jump back to? I want to hear your Andrea Romano story. I'm sure these guys do too.
Okay, so I just to give a little more of my history in Vancouver, the voice industry started there in commercial production, radio production, and there was a number of companies. It was a strange little pocket in North America where these 2 or 3 companies did tons and tons of radio commercials that were North America wide. And I realized this when I was quite young. Our family had taken a trip to California and another one in Hawaii, and we were listening to the radio, as you did, and I went, "That sounds like the weatherman from Vancouver, and that sounds like that radio guy." And sure enough, it was this small group of really funny people who created these very funny radio ads, and they were quite sought after. So as I started to get older, I realized, I can do that, because the filmmaking thing was great, and I was going to be Steven Spielberg, except I didn't want to be a starving student filmmaker. So I won the most promising filmmaker award, 1980, against college students, and I've immediately retired. Because I'm very pragmatic, and I went, there's just no money in that. And there was no film business in Vancouver at that time. Everyone knows, Vancouver and Atlanta, there's places that just do tons and tons of film. And it didn't exist then. So I just went, no, I'm not going to do it. So I started knocking on doors of these advertising companies that made commercials. So I started working that way, and I thought, what I really want to do, I was always the character guy, because I didn't fancy myself an announcer, but I really had a huge interest, like Kari here, in animation since I was a kid. And I too knew who Andrea Romano was from credits, and in those days, it was tough to find out who it was. You couldn't just Google someone, and these terms like newspaper clippings, and what was the other thing you did? You went to get a book.
I went to get a book in a store.
Exactly.
I walked in the door, and the books were actually on the table.
And I took my graphite pencil and circled things. Anyway, so I wrote a letter, same thing, and sent my I was going to say something really awful, but I realized there's kids here.
Think of the children.
My not so
You're
great
keeping us honest.
demo to her, and she wrote back. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Anyway, she said, there's some good stuff here. Keep at it. So I sent her another one. And I'm an idiot. I know I can't work in America. How's that going to work? Anyway, I thought, I'll figure it out. So I sent her another couple, and she had notes, and she sent them back. And she said, if you're in town, let me know. So I went. I know. I was a lot more handsome then, too. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think that was it.
I was not.
Yeah,
I was not.
she might have.
I've got the pictures.
Because I sent pictures. No, I didn't. Anyway, so I go there, and I go to the old Hanna-Barbera studios, and I walk in, and that's the greatest number of Neumann microphones I had ever seen to that point. Because I would go in and do commercials, and there's a mic and another mic for the other guy. And I'm going, oh, this is where they did the Flintstones. And it was a terrible room, by the way. It was a really bad room. It was really echoey, and if you listen to those old cartoons, there's a certain sound to them, and there's no deadening it, nothing, terrible. Anyway, she was so kind. She hands me a bunch of copy like this, and says, go in there. What? Okay. And, there's that old guy, and it's like sight reading, right? And I just did my thing, and she went, no, you got something. I don't know what you need to do to get here, but if you get here, and that didn't happen because that border, no matter what the orange guy in office says, is really tough to cross, especially if you want to work here. It's a big deal, as Trevor knows.
Yeah, and to top this off, my very first job in LA was with Andrea Romano, and it was because of you. Because when I first got down here, Ian said, I gotta introduce you to Andrea. Because I'd worked with Andrea a couple times back home when she would fly up to do a couple projects, Tom and Jerry or something, I think. Then, so you set that meeting up, and I had coffee with her, and she said, who are you with? And I said, well, nobody. She said, I gotta call SBV and tell them they need to take it, because you're fabulous. I was like, okay. So she does, and I get this phone call from my agent at SBV going, Andrea Romano just called us. That doesn't happen. So can you come in now? Like now? How's now? Okay. So I went in, and they said, do you want to sign now? Can we? I'm like, okay. Everyone said this was going to be hard. So thanks for my career.
You're
Ian.
welcome.
Basically-
You're welcome. It's what I do. I give. And that lousy Andrea Romano goes, I move here, and 6 months later, she retires. So, friend no more. Anyway, at the end of the story is, so we did that little do-si-do, and then literally 10 years later, at least, she comes up to direct in Vancouver for the first time. It's a show called Reboot. You familiar with that? And that show was the first CG animated series for TV. And they were throwing lots of money at it. And they went, we're going to get the best director, and that's what we're going to do. And I went in, read for it, didn't get cast for it. And I told her this story. I said, you were so nice to me. She goes, oh, that's really great. I'm not casting you. And then she this is the craziest story. Then she ends up getting fired from directing Reboot. You want to know why? She was too fast. Because the producers on that show, who were not nice people, they were coke fiends. I'll just say that. They were nuts. And the guy would come in and go, we got him for 4 hours. We keep him for 4 hours. And he would just pound away. And she went, that's not the way it works. And they didn't like her, so she got canned. Anyway, I ended up getting cast on Reboot, and that's a whole nother story. Later. Oh, yeah. It's a teaser.
No, this is good. And actually, I do have a reboot-specific question for you later,
Okay.
so don't worry. We will come back to that. I flipped when Reboot got a reboot, just because you were able to say that. Like, yeah, we can talk.
You didn't watch it though, did you?
No. Is anyone from Netflix here? So, for those of you guys taking notes so far, find Andrea Romano on Facebook. Ask her if she can grab a cup of coffee. No. Well, actually, this is one of the reasons I love talking to fellow actors, because what I find is crazy. Like a couple of the things you guys said, it's just like, that's magic. I mean, it's literally magic. Like what we get to do and what you guys get to do, it's alchemy. You're taking words off of the page and you're bringing them to life. But these stories in which I was looking at newspaper clippings and then years later, the lady that inspired me to keep going was directing me, and that's magical, right? That's amazing. And I think that's the thing that I want to stress to you guys is when you're looking at your journeys, don't take notes for comparison, take notes for inspiration, and know that your journey is going to be different. And so with that, I wanted to ask you guys kind of an interesting question. So we know that acting is the biggest part of voice acting, right? Little a, big V, they say. What is something that you would recommend, a skill or class that is not acting related, that you believe would be helpful in a career in voiceover or was helpful to you in achieving your career in voiceover?
Martial arts. Absolutely. Taekwondo. So I took Taekwondo for a few years. Like I got up to high blue, which if anybody out there knows, it's just like a little bit past halfway. So it's not like I was a black belt or anything. But the thing that's really cool about martial arts, for one thing, is that you have to learn how to breathe correctly, and you have to really learn how to from your diaphragm. And when you get into video games, you have pages and pages and pages of small hit react, medium hit react, large hit react, and you do that for hours. And the more you can tap into ways to not hurt yourself vocally, the better. And so I was constantly like using diaphragm work. And the other thing is that, especially I think for women, getting loud and physical can sometimes be a challenge. Like when I rarely guest direct, but you know, every once in a while I'll guest direct a friend's voiceover workshop or something like that. And you know, sometimes you'll have girls behind the microphone and you'll be like, okay, this is a very powerful character, and it says right here that you punch him in the gut. Okay, you're not gonna get away with this. And I'm like, okay, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I want you to say you're not gonna get away from this and then punch him in the gut. Like, okay, you're not gonna get away with this. And you can't. Like, ladies, you've got to embrace your voice in your body completely. You're not gonna get away with this. Ugh! You know?
Okay.
You punch. Yeah. Hey, sorry,
All right. We're not going to get away with it.
I did that for emphasis. But it's true. So, and that's another thing with Taekwondo that, you know, if I had a really great teacher, and if I wasn't, kia, you know, hard enough, he'd be like, no, louder, kia! But I could do it without hurting myself for 4 hours! You know, so
That's good, actually, the martial arts
Yeah,
thing. I
it's
never
great.
thought of that, but it's true.
No, it's brilliant.
And that thing, just to build on that too, I mean, that is the one thing that you run into all the time with people who are sort of new to voiceover, is anytime, whether that's animation, video games, whatever, when you have an actor, maybe they've done film or TV or even stage, and they get to the effort sounds, and that's a perfect example. You're not going to get away with this, right? Or whatever it is. Every time. I've seen that so many times over the course of my career, where the new actor comes in and maybe they get the line right. You're not going to get away with that. Because it's so alien to someone who, I mean, we just do it so naturally because it's you know, we do it like breathing, but I can sort of understand someone who's coming from a different discipline. But how am I supposed to punch? There's nobody here to punch. What, how am I supposed to throw my arm? I might hit the mic. Just pretend, honey. You know.
Well, so piggyback off the effort thing, and see, it's as if we've weaved this whole thing together. So I only worked with Andrea Romano once, and it was in a workshop right before she retired, and she taught me how to do effort sounds. And I used her technique to book a job in a video game that next day.
Whoa.
And I emailed her. It was like, I don't know if she saw it, but I was just like, I booked it. But one of the things, so those of you who have worked in video games probably already know this, but when you're receiving an effort direction, you are either throwing the punch or taking the punch, and those sounds should sound different. This is not something I'd recommend going and practicing and listening. Hit somebody and hear how they react. But some of the advice Andrea had given was changing the vowel sounds so that when you're getting hit multiple times, you just go through, hey, ee, ah, oh, ooh, and then if you're existentially getting hit, why?
Wow.
Right. That's great. But why?
Brock for the win.
Yeah, right. But enough about that. So the martial arts, I think, is a great jumping off point too, because there's something to be said about the stillness and needing to, and in voiceover, even though we're on, there is a level of relaxation that's required, I think, to be able to have breath control and make decisions and also take direction when you're like, I have no idea what an ice orc princess sounds like, nor give you 3 variations on it. So there is like a level of relaxation, I think, that also comes from that.
And also, like back to your core question about an activity or a training that is outside of acting, I have kind of 2. Writing is really good because when you understand what you're reading and how it goes together, and when you write a lot, you start to really understand what a character looks like and what the direction is. That's kind of basic. But what I think is, you'll find, certainly with these 3, I don't know about you, Brock, but these 3, I just refer to myself. These 3. I don't know. That's another question for another day. Music. I find that there is a commonality amongst people who really, really excel at voice. They're musical in whatever way. Like they might be a singer, they might be a player. If you have a musical ear, and you can do things to train that, that goes a long way because this stuff is music.
Yeah, for like 100%. That's true. A lot of the times what we'll have to do is we'll have to give like an ABC, right? Which is give us that line 3 slightly different ways. And again, with a lot of sort of inexperienced actors, they do it just the same way 3 different times. And
They think it's different.
They think it's different.
They hear it different.
Right. And if you ask that person, do you play the guitar or anything like that? No. Okay.
No, I'm a TV actor.
Because not
It's all right here.
Yeah, exactly.
As I'm trying to remember my line. I hate TV actors. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To a room full of actors.
No, but it's true. You have to be able to hear the music. We hear that all the time. The music of the words. So if the line is, hey, I can't wait to go out tonight, and they say, give me an ABC, each one has to be subtly different. Hey, I can't wait to go out tonight. Hey, I can't wait to go out tonight. Hey, I can't wait to go out tonight.
And the fourth option, hey, I can't wait to go out tonight.
That's right.
If it's recorded in Vancouver, yes.
Yeah. If you have to localize it for Vancouver, right?
Yeah. But that's, you can hear the music of those words, and that ensures that you're giving variations, which is what they're asking for with an ABC, right?
And speaking of writing, which Ian was speaking of earlier, Trevor, you and I were talking before, and you actually, now I'm going to be peppering in some of their credits. These actors are incredible. They have so many different credits. And by the way, you can be taking pictures if you want and tagging everybody. It's social media, go for it. And if you need to, feel free to look them up so you can be like, oh. But we're going to talk a little bit about their work specifically now. And I wanted to talk about, Trevor is the voice of Rocket Raccoon for Guardians of the Galaxy, for those of you who don't know. And I didn't know this. Yeah, you can do that for Rocket. Yeah, I would do that.
Ah, you're very kind. Now, enough already.
But for those who didn't know, and I didn't know this, Trevor is also a writer for Marvel. Yes. Can we talk about that a little bit?
So I have been a writer for a long time, but not really for cartoons. I was a playwright for years. I was a filmmaker as well, kind of like Ian back in the day. So I understood basic things like how to form a 3-act structure and things like this. But I had written for some cartoons with Lee Togar, actually, way back for The Adventures of Yamroll, which was a little show that they did in Toronto.
Classic.
A classic that no one's heard of. But so what happened was, I'll just give you the tiny version of the story. When we were going to the second season of Guardians, I had an idea for an episode. And the idea was, wouldn't it be cool if we saw an episode entirely from Groot's perspective? So if we heard his internal monologue, and he was talking all this time, but everyone else always just said, I am Rocket, I am Gamora, I am this. And so I told Will Friedle, who plays Star-Lord, this at dinner one night. I said, yeah, I think that'd be a really cool episode. And he said, yeah, I would. You should pitch Marvel. And I said, yeah. He said, no, really, you should pitch Marvel. I'm like, why would they listen to me? He said, you're Rocket Raccoon. They're not just going to say no. And I went, oh, yeah, I guess I have access. So, long story short, I wound up pitching one of the producers this idea. Just because I wanted to see it, I was like, this would be a really cool episode. So I told him the idea. And he said, that's awesome. Do you want to write it? And I went, write it? I just kind of want to watch it. But okay, I guess I'll write it. He said, you've written before. I said, yeah. What writing? It's a cartoon. So he said, well, before we get to that one, let's get you warmed up with some Avengers. Do you want to write an Avengers episode? I was like, okay. So he said, okay, the story editor will call you. So sure enough, I get this email from the story editor, Eugene Sun. Okay, so this is what happens in the episode. Black Panther and... So just go. And I'm like, I've never watched this show in my life. I have no idea who these characters are. This was before the big movies came out. So I was like, I guess I have to watch this show. I don't know who these people are. So I did. I wrote the episode. Winged it totally. Handed it in going, this will probably be the end of that career, Joyce. But they said, that's great. Awesome. You want to do another one? Okay. Great. Awesome. Want to do another one? Really? Okay. You know I've never done this before, right? Yeah. And then they wound up, I wrote the season finale of the Black Panther thing, and I wound up playing Claw in that as well, because they heard me do a South African accent, and they went, oh, yeah, you're Claw. Oh, that was the fastest audition I've ever done. So then they got back and they said, yeah, we want to use your Guardians idea for the Black Vortex series of episodes where all the characters go into this weird mirror, and there's one reality where we hear all of Groot's, it's just Groot, he's the only one and I'm like, you're using my idea. And we did. So I got to write a version of it. It wasn't exactly the one I pitched them, but it was pretty close. And when I saw it on TV, I was like, well, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This was an idea I had just at dinner with Will one night. And there it is on the screen, where millions of people are watching it. And I was like, I love this town!
I love this. This is great. This is a great jumping off point, actually. You set me up perfectly. Can you see my script? Versatility is key in voiceover. You have to be able to, yes, there are some people that have just their voice and they use their voice, and TV celebrities get hired a lot of times, and celebrities get hired to use their voice with character rather than to have a character voice. But acting is acting, it's a skill set. So speaking of versatility, I have a group of people here who have not just played heroes on animated series, they've also played villains. So I want to get their perspective on what that is like and what their preference is. Is it good to be bad? Trevor, as he mentioned, Rocket Raccoon. He also voiced, you did voice Black Bolt. I'll name that out there, even though Black Bolt of the Inhumans, can you give us a little? He talks very little. If you're a nerd, that was a test, and you all failed. Good night.
You all failed.
He was also Dr. Claw, and which was kind of crazy that they had you writing the Black Panther tie-in thing, because you then ended up writing some of your own stuff.
I think that was part of their clever plan. Yes,
see, clever
we'll have the
people.
same guy write the episode.
I gotta tell you, I'm starting to think those Marvel people know what they're doing.
They may have some small notion.
Oh, and Kari, I mean, you are so many superheroes, and not just a superhero in your own right as a voice actor, but you're Zatanna on DC Superhero Girls. You've been Starfire.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've got Starfire here. And then just keeping it on the Avengers theme, you were the Wasp.
Yes.
And also Proxima Midnight of the Black Order, right? So, and that was, now, did you do Proxima on the animated and the video game as well? Because I know you were in.
Yes, did it on both.
That's amazing.
And I think did her voice for the first time maybe on a Guardians episode.
yeah.
And then she showed up in the Avengers cartoon as well. And then she showed up in a video game or two. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a lot
Now, do you have a preference? I mean, you've voiced a lot
villains.
of... Really?
Emma Frost is one of my favorites.
Emma Frost from the X-Men.
Wolverine and the X-Men was one of my favorite shows. And sadly, there was a bunch of red tape and we didn't get picked up for a second season. But I loved her because she was very ambiguous.
And, so great. Oh, you're so good at being bad. All of you guys are. You're voicing Tigress right now on Carmen Sandiego on Netflix, correct? And can we get a little Tigress? Is that okay?
She's just a mean girl. She's just, it's like when I was telling you all that you're brave and stuff, I'm like laughing inside because I mostly play, cover your ears, bitches, and airheads.
The kids all have implants, so they just hear...
So yeah, Tigress is just very much like, oh, Carmen, nice fedora.
That's so great. And then Ian, you have voiced a lot of heroes. I have to just shout this out because I was a giant. I am still giant. I'm 6'4", but I was a giant Beast Wars fan, and I actually had a Cheetor action figure that was stolen from me on the playground. So I'm hoping we can work something out.
Absolutely, I got a bunch of those.
But this is my favorite. You have voiced not only but you guys are so lucky. We're talking about animation, anime, video games. I'm gonna get it all in one. Ian was the voice of Mega Man for the animation adaptation of the video game, and also voiced Dr. Wily, his nemesis, in Captain N, the animated series.
Yes.
So we have
At
both
different times.
Mega Man and his foe in the same person.
Yes, Dr. Wily was my preference, of course, is like Harris. I like the villains.
But I especially like funny villains. Those are my favorite. So if I had to pick, heroes are heroes. They're great. You know, we all love them. But come on. I mean, look at me. Am I a hero? No. And the three big giant hero roles that I did, like they all sound the same, right? They sound like me. I was the original English voice of Goku in Dragon Ball Z, who sounds like Cheetor, who sounds like Bob from Reboot. So that's what I think of heroes. They're true and powerful and wonderful and whatever. Villains rock. Like I do a villain. Oh, what's his name? Scales in Ninjago. Oh, look at this. Ninjago fans.
We got Ninjago fans?
Yeah, it's an age group.
And Scales, he sounds like this.
So they're just a lot more fun.
Yeah, I agree. The good thing about playing a hero is that they're probably going to be in every episode. Yes. And that's a pretty important thing there. The bad guys show up often, but not always all the time. And especially if you look at Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, and you look at the hierarchy and how the characters are broken down, those characters exist in virtually every cartoon ever made. So if you are cast as Darth Vader or the Darth Vader type of villain, that's great, because you're going to be in all the shows. If you're cast as, say, the Emperor, then you're going to be in some of the scenes, and then not so much the rest of the show, which is fine, but because I played Emperor Palpatine on Lego Star Wars, and that was another comic villain. He started off being very, very serious, but then he sort of turned into something a lot more fun. So that was
so great. This is for free, everybody. This is for free. This is this is great. Okay. So in a second, I'm actually gonna put these guys to the test and have them do a cold read and show us how their skills work live. I know they are. They hate me, and I can feel it. But before we do that, and we actually go through and just go over the process of how you guys break down an audition when you get one for the first time, like this, the first time.
Yeah. Thanks, Brock.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I set my friends up for success. But before we do that, I'll buy you some time. I want to ask you guys a question about what you think. So, Ian, I told you we would mention Reboot again. You worked on Reboot and Beast Wars and Dinosaur Train, 3 shows that are CGI television shows.
Yeah, oh, like, see, age group again. Dinosaur Train.
But you're a trendsetter. You worked on some stuff as an actor that really kind of paved the way for. I mean, Beast Wars came out around the time of a little thing called Toy Story, right? Mm-hmm. Which did okay. But let's talk about some trends that actors are experiencing today, which is the need to create your own content. And also, I think as an actor, having a versatile passion project. And I want to highlight some things that you guys do that I know of that they may not. For example, Trevor had a podcast that he did that was about voiceover that he did up until he moved here in 2013, and it's still available.
Yes, it is on YouTube.
Yeah,
I just uploaded them again actually last week or 2 weeks ago.
So check it. That's a free resource.
Voice print with Trevor Duvall and guests.
Check
That was
that out.
audio only?
Yes, audio
Oh,
only.
God.
Yes.
Sorry, I was on it, and I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I thought, was there cameras?
Was there cameras?
Why is it on YouTube?
Surprise!
You scared me, because I work pantless.
Thank you so much. We literally had to. Took 3 people to get him to wear those. Those are great. Ian, so this is a
Yes.
great. Thanks for setting me up on the segue. Speaking of being Ian, let's talk about. He produced a show, created. So guys, take notes here. Ian created his own animated show called Being Ian. Trevor, you were on it.
Very briefly, no
Yeah.
thanks to him.
Well,
Yeah.
I said, get rid of that guy. He's too good.
So Ian, how did that come about? How did you have the opportunity to do that?
Okay, well, my history with animation, of course, started really early with my filmmaking, and then as I started working as a voice actor, I was reading, and recording hundreds of scripts and going, I can write this. It's sort of similar to Trevor's story, and it was with an end goal of creating my own stuff. So you have to kind of prove that you can write before you can run. So I worked on a bunch of really awful animated shows. A lot of them came out of Quebec for a company called Cinar. Things like the Little Lulu Show, a whole bunch of preschool stuff. One good one, Roly Poly Oly. Remember that? Yeah, I actually won a Gemini Award for that. That's like the Canadian Emmy.
Oh my gosh! Now that
Yeah.
theme song is stuck in everybody's head, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
But we can't sing it because we're videotaping this.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So I was writing, and then finally I had an opportunity. The first series that I created with another partner of mine was called Yvonne of the Yukon. Big hit in Canada and Germany and England because the English hate the French. And this will all make sense in a minute. Because the story was this really short, stubby little 15th century French explorer with just the strongest accent. I didn't do him. Got frozen in the tundra. And he was frozen for 400 years until a husky came along, peed on him, and then brought him back to life. So there was this guy in northern Canada just going, what? I still work for King Louis! And insanity ensued. So that's Yvonne of the Yukon. It was successful. And then from that, I thought, well, I want to do another one. And it was kind of a slow news day. And I went, what should I write? Oh, I know. I'll write about me. So my childhood was a bit weird. We were raised in a retail music environment. My dad had a music store where he sold pianos and organs and guitars and stuff. And we all worked there. And I had 2 older dimwit brothers they were, in the cartoon. Yeah, one of them is a dump. How widely is this being broadcast? Is it only SAG members?
I mean, I did invite your brother. Oh, he laughed. He's crying. And so,
No, anyway, for comedy. Everyone's got funny brothers, right? Anyway, I had two of these older brothers, and I went, this is funny. And at the time, what was sitting in the back of my head was a show called Malcolm in the Middle. Oh, yeah. And I went, that's kind of like my life growing up. And so I wove all that stuff together, and Ian, the main character, had a really filmic imagination. And the show was quite fun for its time because it had a look. It had kind of a what's the Brock? You probably know this expression. Squash and stretch.
Yeah, yeah.
Animation.
Yeah.
But it was done in Flash, so it was like one of the early computer Flash shows that didn't look like or floating, that Flash thing. So it looked really good, but on top of that, every time Ian would like drift off into imagination land in a situation that he was in, it would go into a different form of animation altogether. Like sometimes it was photorealistic CG, sometimes it was like claymation, and it was really cool. So and they exist somewhere on YouTube. And again, big hit in Canada, big hit, other parts of the world, nothing. Oh, it was on Kubo?
Yeah, Kubo. That was eventually became Toonami, or was it Toonami?
Yeah,
thing?
something.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
I mean, you really had to look for it.
Yeah.
Here.
ToonHouse Disney. Sorry, my nerd's upset.
Yeah, so I wrote and created that series.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Kari, this one is not animation related, but it is one of my favorite things. You have a band. Can we talk about Slot Her? Because I've seen you and you guys slay.
Thank you.
That's Slayer.
Oh, dang it.
That's I'll take it. Oh my gosh.
So can we just talk about that? Because I mean, what the point of this conversation is, these are just examples of, these are incredibly busy actors who are diverse in their skill sets, and also, yes, these are things you can do when things are slow, and as actors, we have seasons. But this is what they are doing when things are going really right, and they're taking time for themselves, and they're putting their passion somewhere else. So Kari, I really do want to put the spotlight on that, because I think you're doing some positive stuff there.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm I had, very long story short, I'd gone through this period of time where things were just a little rocky and bumpy, and I was just feeling very stagnant in my life, and some rough things were happening, and I went to this Hair Nation festival and saw this all-day hairband thing, because I secretly have always loved hairbands. Thank you. You're my people right there. You're my favorite. Don't tell anyone. So
you're not talking about the ones that like go around.
Yeah,
your
not
head
the hair bands.
No, I'm talking like Def Leppard, Poison, Bon Jovi.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking, Slaughter, Vixen, just. Man, I'm just, Motley Crue. I could go on and on. So anyway, there were like 20 bands in this festival, and I just fell in love with Slaughter. I'm like, man, I remember one or two of the songs, but I started listening to them a lot, and I started getting this joy back in life, and from Slaughter. I know. I'm telling you. And listen, I'm gonna personally invite you to come and see our next show.
The irony is not lost on Kari.
It's crazy. Like, people, it's all part of the show. Like, it's kind of a narrative. I can't call it a one-woman show because we've got this killer band, but there's like storytelling and stuff involved with it. And part of it is so funny because, like, I am me, and I'm like, oh my God, I love Slaughter so much, you guys. I love them. And people are like, what? So I went and saw them in concert again, and I'm in the car on the way home with my friend, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to get up and sing Slaughter songs. I would have it all girls, and I would call it Slaughter. Oh, ding! And so, fast forward, like I started trying to put this thing together, and I realized, oh my gosh, I can't sing like Mark Slaughter. So what developed was we sang Slaughter songs in all these different genres of music. So we have a jazz version of a Slaughter song, which is actually one of the crowd favorites. We're shooting a music video for it right now on Sunday, and we recorded it in a studio. We had a girl do at our last show on a violin. We did a piano and violin. We had a gal at our first couple of shows that did it on a ukulele.
It's so
And-
good. This
Yeah,
show's so good.
And thank you.
So
So
good.
Trevor went and saw it, and we just got booked for another show. It's at the Federal in North Hollywood, January 23rd.
Oh, nice.
And the reason that it's January 23rd is that's the 30th anniversary of the release of Slaughter's first album. So it's been just such a joyful thing for me. And the crazy thing is, I had gotten kind of to a point where I was very scared to sing in public. I used to do it a lot when I was younger, and I had gotten really rusty and out of practice. And once I started working on this Slaughter project, I started booking more singing roles in animation than I ever have before. Did a singing thing on Trolls. The Beat Goes on Netflix. I did something on OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, Nico and the Sword of Light. Like, I just started booking more animation singing roles. So it is crazy sometimes how your other passion projects feed into what you bring to your work. So, whenever I'm directing and stuff like that, I do say to people, it's so important that you do have a life outside of your acting, because the life that you have outside of your acting brings life to your acting. The martial arts helps my acting. The singing, the all-girl hair band brings life to my acting. So I would just really say that is such an important part of your work as actors, is to make sure that you are doing things that feed your soul and your heart outside of it.
I used to say to actors, you have to be, in order to be interesting, you have to be interested. Yeah. You have to take an interest in something outside of your career, because there's a lot of actors I came up with that were very, very focused. I'm an actor. But an actor is portraying other people. So you have to get a sense of what that life is. You know what I mean? And it seems so basic, but it's so important. You have to be interested in the world, man, because that's our job. Our job is to portray all these little tiny snippets of the world. So you have to keep an open mind and try and look at things that sometimes you would have no interest in. Sometimes you'd have, like the idea of looking into certain sectors of the world is kind of, but as an actor, well, that's our job. We gotta know. We gotta know what that is, right? So you have to be interested in order to be interesting.
And I think there's a level, too, of needing to be interested in people. What's interesting about Slaughter and a lot of the things that we do is the band are other voiceover people. Some of them, right? You have Sarah Cravens, and you have Mary
Elizabeth McGlynn.
Yeah. Erica Ishii was your violinist who does voiceover?
Erica Ishii is our violinist, and we're already talking and planning with bringing some other very talented ladies in the voiceover industry into it. So yeah, it's
Do you
fun.
have to be a lady then?
Well, it is interesting that I'm going to be very open about this, since our first show, one of the ladies in our band came out as trans. And so in our first show, we billed the show as Slaughter, an all-girl tribute to the music of Slaughter. And, my friend was kind of struggling with it and coming to terms with it. We did the second show, and I was saying, listen, the moment you start feeling weird about the words all-girl in this, you come and talk to me. And so he did. Before our third show, our most recent show. And so we just dropped all girl. It's still Slaughter, a tribute night to the music of Slaughter. And I feel like it's a much more powerful choice to just say, this is my friend. I love him. He's an amazing guitarist, and I really don't care if he's a he. He's going to play with us anyway. So that's...
So what you're saying is there's a shot.
There's a shot for you.
That's all I heard. Well, what was that other stuff?
Wah, 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 wah. You've got a chance.
Did you not hear it I heard Rocket Raccoon, Rocket Raccoon, Rocket Raccoon.
Right.
Rocket Raccoon, Rocket Raccoon.
What a great idea for a band, Gary. I love it.
Oh.
Trevor got that episode idea from talking to me.
I love that. And thank you so much, Kari. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is just such an important element of what we do as actors. And sometimes if I get tired of talking about the industry stuff, if I'm in an Uber, I tell people I work in anthropology. I do. Not the store. I can't wear anything there. But because we study people. we're storytellers, and
one for
how's this
Brock.
for a segue? We use people in our lives to help us inspire voices in our auditions.
Yep.
Which leads us to this really briefly. Let's just take a couple lines off of these. I gave these guys some scripts. And I'm gonna make these poor friends of mine just go through and give us a little quick sample. I'm gonna read you guys what they have. They're gonna read a couple lines, and we'll see what they come up with. So let's just talk process. Imagine that you guys got this, handed this audition. Ian, you have a little creature there that is puka. Can you describe to the audience what the puka is?
Well, there is the name Poo-Ka, P-O-O. That's the first thing that drew me to it. And another thing that you don't often get these days is a picture. So the picture really informs who this guy might be. And then there's the text. Puka is a rabbit-like creature that dwells deep in Dun-Re forest. Puka prefers roaming after midnight and often appears in the local farmers' gardens, thinking of only two things, snacking and sleeping. Despite his primitive behavior and simple language, Puka is fiercely loyal when he wants to be. I think I just auditioned for the narrator.
I think you did. Could you give us a couple lines as Puka, and then we'll go down the line?
Sure.
I'm buying you time, Trevor. You owe me. You can Venmo me.
Smell human, Puka does. Fairy folk no like humans. Shh. Tiny human no cry. Puka not tell.
That was great. That was excellent. And that's the other thing. So I challenge you guys when they're going through this, close your eyes and see if you can picture, because you don't have the pictures in front of you. But I mean, that was Peter Lorre as a lemur, and it was perfect. It was perfect. You're cast. No, that was great, Ian. Kari, do you mind if I make you go next?
Oh, okay. Do I get to pick one, or are you
pick?
picking
Yeah,
one for
I
me?
gave Kari what we have here, these are all scripts from a demo company called ToonHouse, Bill Farmer's demo company that I sometimes do some freelance writing for. And I have stolen some of those scripts because we are videotaping this. I wanted to be able to give you guys an experience of real auditions, but we can't use things we'll get sued over.
I can just hear the phone call now.
Ah, gee.
Brock, what are you doing with my scripts? For the whole world to see. That's a terrible goofy, but...
Oh boy. Kari, what do you got? Do you want to pick one?
Well, you know what? I'll give you this one. This is Gal 9000, which, and the spec, you guys see the red dot? That's my picture. And it says, Gal was programmed to be cold-blooded, but she still enjoys a game of cat and mouse. Welcome, former Captain Roberts. Override code 548 denied. Override code 469 also denied. Care to try another? You still have 3,928 possible combinations before the oxygen runs out.
Oh, yeah.
That was great. Gal 9000. That was excellent. That was great. That was good.
I picked that one also because I don't know if there are any Rick and Morty fans in the house, but I play Rick Spaceship. And I play the voice of Jessica on that one. But so those are actually roles that.
Aren't they the best roles, though,
They're
when
the
you can do
best.
the ship computer?
Yes.
I love it. It seems like it's nothing, but I really like
I
them.
love it. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like hypnotic and soothing
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And terrifying all at
And
the same time.
terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Well, Trevor, what do you have here?
Well, I have someone called Jin. Who does not sound like that. An evil genie, finally freed, believes magic should be used to torture and destroy. Ooh, I love him already. Jin is a smoky shapeshifter. When he does appear in a corporeal form, it is looming and wraith-like in appearance. His voice should be harsh and textured from years of screaming while trapped in his lamp.
Oh dear.
Sorry, Trevor.
He's gonna call his mother, is what you're saying. Oh my God, I've been trapped. No, I'm not gonna do it like that.
Oh, that's great. Harvey
So he's bad guy. There is a picture, you can't see him, but he's a smoky, evil genie
very
guy.
scary genie.
Very scary genie. Oh, what if he's W? Why not? Free. I'm finally free. No. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Okay, so he's looming in wraith-like in appearance. So, do I have to explain this? Can I just do it?
You can do it. You can do whatever you want.
I'm not going to tell you my process. Go away. Get your own. I just tend to go on instinct. Picture soup really helps, really helps. But I'm looking at the description. Looming and wraith-like, those are weird words that stand out. Voice should be harsh and textured. I'm bleeding already in the throat, but here we go. Free. Finally free. Scene 2. Thank you, master. Shall we see what havoc my magic can wreak? No, mortal. The only thing I grant is a swift death. Or something like that, I think.
Come on.
Wow.
You guys, that was so great.
Okay, I'm going to say something right now. These two tried way harder than I did. And I'm just going to admit to this.
I love this.
I know nothing's at stake here.
The panel's done, by the way. This was just for me. You guys can go. I think we may have some questions from the audience, right? Do we have some questions you want me to try to... Are we done? Are we wrapping?
No, we're good. No questions. The questions we have on the sheet.
Okay, we'll keep going. Cool. Do we want to ask some audience questions maybe? Maybe 3? Okay, I got a mic. We got a live mic. Is that okay?
We can try that.
Yeah, you want to try? You guys want to get into voiceover? Here's a microphone. You're going to talk into it. You want to read some more?
I don't want to pressure people.
Yeah, if you don't have questions. Oh, do we have a question?
Well, it might be a technical issue too, because I think they want to record this stuff. So we'll repeat your question.
We'll
There you
repeat
go,
your
yeah.
question.
How's
So we'll do that. I'm going to take 3 questions. It's going off of the genie thing, and I just am lazy. So I'm going to take 3 questions, really from anyone. No, I see your hand. What's your name? Ariana. And is your question for the whole panel?
Sure.
Great.
I wrote down a different question, but I would love to know their process when you do get a script, what you do. I mean, I know looking picture obviously, but like how you actually, if you break down the script or do any work. Also, my other question that I actually wrote down, because you were going to ask them that, but just is there any bread and butter work that is not animation, video game, or anime that you guys do, like promo or commercial, that you feel like is your staple, regular work?
So the question is there a process when we get a script? And do we have a quote unquote bread and butter job other than animation? Maybe in voiceover or something else. In voice.
I think any voiceover job that you get is amazing. Like I guess for me, I don't look at, like I've done a little bit of promo, I've done a little bit of commercial work, and it's just always exciting for me to book anything. So it just happens to be that, right now animation is kind of the bulk of what I do, but I'm still auditioning for everything. So I mean, yeah, I don't know that.
I agree. Actually, I haven't had to work like a job in 20 years. But the key to being a working voice actor is body of work. I do mostly animation. I've been very lucky. I also do commercials. I do some promo stuff. I do video games. I do anything that comes along. I'm like, oh, because I love the words. You got the job. What's the job? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You got it. So it's body of work. And that's something that I feel really strongly about because I love I love doing a cartoon in the morning and a promo at lunch and a Verizon commercial or a Hormel chili commercial, I should say, as I'm the voice of Hormel chili.
I thought that smelled like chili.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pay him in cans.
Yeah, it's. I have a comment. I'm not gonna.
The children. Kids, run, kids.
But it's body of work. It's definitely body of work. In terms of process, breaking down scripts, I mean, yes, of course, put a lot of effort into that. I'm horribly lazy. So for me, I look at an animation script once I've got the job, and I go, oh, this is like every other script ever written, ever. So I know how it works. That may sound bad now that I've said it.
And it's recorded.
Now it's out to the world. He's a lazy no good. Yeah,
You know, I'm going to try and rescue you here a little
please
bit.
do.
I actually agree with this approach to prep. And it's mostly because I came up through voiceover commercial work. So if you over-prepare, and this is very, very real, because I just had it happen last month in an episode of something I can't tell you about that was up in Vancouver, where this young guy came in, and he had a voice all prepared, and there was a song. Now, you should prep for a song, you should. But he really prepped for this song, and he had it like locked down. He went to a vocal coach and put a lot of effort into it. Now, he already had the gig. And I kind of love/hate being this guy. And I sat there and I watched him going through his stuff and go, boy, you put a lot of work into that. Yeah. What happens when they change it? And he looked at me like, what? And I said, no, honestly, that's my excuse for not putting a whole lot of effort into it, because in commercials, you got 30 seconds of copy, and you go, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it just like this. I got these words just perfect, and then they change it all. And if you're too locked in, it can be for some actors really tough to get off of what you got locked into.
Especially if you have to take direction. I mean, I'm kind
This
of
is
joking.
direction, yeah.
I'm kind of joking about not preparing, but also not really.
Yeah, you need to be
Because
able to adjust. So
yeah, for sure. So if
Absolutely.
the thing that drives me crazy, if I have to do like a commercial audition and it's a two-hander or a three-hander or something, which doesn't happen very often, but sometimes you get called into the studio and we're gonna pair up you two, and the thing that makes me nuts is the actor who says, okay, let's rehearse, because I'm like,
no,
I don't like that
either.
Save it for the mic. Because the rehearsal could be my best take. Because for me, my take one is almost invariably the one they go with. So
it's true. It's really true. And that was my point about commercials. Is another thing that I used to start doing, because back in the day, my bread and butter was commercials before animation work started coming to Vancouver, and I've started to realize that there were certain ad agencies. First of all, they always view it as a field trip, which is just, it's terrible. Oh, great. Why is there 18 people in the room? Why? Who are they? Well, it's a chance to get out of the office and get some free food. So what that means is they're going to have a blast. And I'm going, oh, no. So I'm so terrible. When I knew it was going to be one of those days, I screwed up the first 4 takes really bad. And then they would direct, and then they would redirect, and then they would redirect, and then I go, okay, I'm going to pull out the A material here. And then I would do it, and they go, oh, that was really good. And I went, does that mean I'm done? Because it's terrible. I was completely manipulating them into thinking this guy is really kind of bad. And as soon as we get a good one, let's just stick with that and see. Bye, because I got another one in half an hour. So, that's my key to success.
Well, so there goes once again my point on humility. That is gone. Yeah, we're out of time. No, but I will say I think, Kari, you guys can all speak to this.
What?
No. I
I'm
think
gonna save both of you
save these
from
guys.
yourself.
Kari, save our show.
I think this is sexist.
SOS, save the
This is
show.
terrible.
No, I think that they bring up a very great point that
There's a
Throw him out! Crush him!
No, I think someone just won
Sacrifice him
It's a
to
slot
our
machine.
gods!
Ding, 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 ding.
no, you're fine.
Okay,
well, we won't. So yeah, I mean, I do think that the what they're saying about not getting locked into your choice is super important. especially if you get a callback. Especially if you get a callback. And mostly for these situations, I would say this would apply to animation, maybe a video game or something like that, because once you get called back, that's great, but I had this one studio that was notorious as I was walking in the door to the studio that would say, oh, yeah, you remember how you made that choice like she was, 8 years old and stuff like that? They're going older. And don't do the accent. Oh, and now we're going to cut that second scene, so don't worry about that. As I'm walking in to the studio. So you have to, I think one of the best things that you can do for yourselves is, sure, make choices in your scripts, but really open yourself to being directable, because that's going to book you a job faster than a lot of other things.
For sure.
And be familiar with the text. Like, I think that's really important. Know the words, but it's the nuances and the specifics don't sweat that.
I used to do a bunch of teaching back in the old days, and one of the exercises we would do with the students is one of them would take the piece of text, and that's crucial, is understanding the words, knowing how to read, knowing how to pronounce the words, all that, being familiar with the punctuation, all that stuff. Hugely important, obviously. But one of the students would be doing it, and then the other one would throw different ways of doing it randomly at them. Do it like you're 600 pounds. Do it like you have a cleft palate. Do it like you've been running for a mile. Do it, whatever. Just, it doesn't matter. Anything off the top of your head, you take it, hear it, do it. Change it up.
Can you say cleft palate?
I don't know. I'm not politically correct, if you haven't figured that out by now at all.
Well, that is
Maybe
still
it's the
figured out.
Canadian in us. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we
don't have
don't
any
care
politics.
about that, eh?
No.
Jeez, we're all just friendly
I'm
anyway.
missing the
You're
frickin'
meeting the
leadership
two
debate
not
right
nice
now.
Canadians
We
like
got two of them.
on the entire planet.
Yeah, right.
We're here to
Seriously,
dispel
the
that.
first time I met Ian, I can't.
true.
The first time I met him at a party, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've met my first beep Canadian." It's like you're a unicorn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Of course, I did introduce myself that way. I'm here to show you we're not what you think we are.
Nice and really sweet and like completely perky
Nope.
and happy. No.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, the point is,
Yes.
before we get off on a thing here, is if you keep yourself open, try new things just to see what happens, because that keeps you fresh and it keeps you able to immediately improvise something new, and that's.
But I do want to say, because I know that you get the sides and it's a little intimidating and stuff like that. A couple of things that I find that I can use. If you have a picture, pictures are great. Pictures are going to take clues from your script. Find the clues in your script. A picture is a huge clue. If your character has amazingly big teeth, they're going to talk a little different than if they have a little tiny pursed mouth like that. It's how they're drawn gives you a clue. How big the chunks of dialogue are. Like, is every single line that your character says like 2 or 3 words? Nah. I guess. Cool. I was thinking that maybe we could go to the mall after school, and I was thinking that maybe we could go to Forever 21 first because I really love it, and they're going out as... Yeah. Cool. Okay. Just looking at the script, how much is your character talking versus another character in the scene? Another thing to keep in mind is that the word sides, for me, sides of the character. You are showing sides of the character.
Oh.
Well, I think we've learned something here tonight.
I'm glad I came.
Listen, I don't know if that's where it comes from, but that's what I think to myself
That's
when
good,
I.
though.
That is very good.
Why, thank you guys.
Wow.
No, it's really great.
You might have a
So-
shot at a voiceover career.
Nah, it's crazy. Nobody makes a living doing that. So here's the deal. You will get sides where there is no description of the character, and it's just lines out of context. Okay, so you'll have like 3 lines. I hate those scripts. They're obnoxious. But here's something to keep in mind. Whoever is casting that project is picking out these random 3 lines because they want to see different sides of the character in those 3 lines. They may not be communicating it very well, but they're picking out these 3 random lines because they're like, oh, this will give us a full arc and, whatever of what this character's like in various situations. So if you don't have the information, pick the strongest possible choice you can.
Right.
Create the strongest possible scene in your mind. And it doesn't matter if it's right. Okay? If you have no idea what's going on, just make sure that each one of those pieces of dialogue is creating a different side of that character in a totally different scene. Now, if you get called back to the callback, they're going to give you further things, or you're going to have that same 3 annoying lines, and you'll get in the booth and they'll be like, yeah, so basically what's happening before that first line is she just found out that her father died. And she's talking to her brother that she hasn't seen for 10 years. You may have chosen that she's on a first date. Not the same thing at all, but something about what you sounded like, something about your vulnerability, something about your sweetness, whatever, intrigued them. Okay, so they're going to give you that information, but it's your job to pick the strongest situation in your mind.
Be bold.
Be bold. And I'll tell you a quick little personal story of exactly how this has happened to me, is that I had a line, let's say it's something to the effect of, man, didn't think I'd run into you here. It's really good to see you. Come on, let's go get something to eat. Okay? There was no description of the character, no age, anything like that, and that's kind of how I performed it. I get called for a callback, and they say to me, okay, here's the thing. He's your brother. So take all that sexiness out of the read. Oh, well, obviously, now I'm going to be like, hey, it's good to see you. Man, it's been a long time. Come on, let's go get something to eat. Right? 2 totally different relationships, but the first one, even though it was completely wrong, I made strong enough choices that they were intrigued and brought me back for the callback. So, you're welcome. Go book a bunch of jobs, all of you.
Come on,
all of you.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I hope you guys took notes. Kids, that's paper. That's pen and paper.
If you didn't, I'm not saying it again for free.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's do 2 lightning quick questions. So if you have a lightning quick question that our amazing panelists can do. In the back? All the way in the back?
It's a simple technique question, and I think it applies to Mr. G. How do you do like harshness or graveliness or that sort of thing without, hurting your voice?
So yeah, no, you're great.
They're offended.
No, they're fine. So the question is, how can you apply texture to your voice when you're manipulating it for a character read like Trevor did with the genie? And how can you do that safely? And that's a great question, because sometimes you'll have to sustain these voices for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll have to do multiple characters that speak in the same texture.
That is a great question. If anyone has an answer, I'd love to hear it.
I have an overview kind of answer, and it has become sort of a saying. Certainly in Vancouver, it's a saying. It's the Corlett 75% rule.
First thing you told me when we worked together.
Is it
man,
really?
You are working way too hard.
Yeah. I said, especially when it comes to screaming. And it doesn't mean like only don't try very hard. But when look at or treat your voice as if it's the speedometer on your car and you're a race car driver. Well, you can crank it around the track and you're going to last like 3 laps. You might be really fast, but your car's going to break, you're going to run out of gas, all those things. So if you vary it and go, okay, that scream, like there's a scream, there's a regular scream, like, ah! That's a really big scream. That's stupid. And then there's a scream that's like, ah! I'm not trying. That's about 75%. So it gives you somewhere to go if you've got a director, which would be a bad director, who goes, yeah, try that again like 8 times. And you go, oh, come on, that's a scream, please. So you've got somewhere to go, and you can vary it a little bit. But, I've been in sessions with young, keen guys. And I was a young, keen guy too, but I never did this. Where they blow their voice out on some, screamy kind of thing, and then you can't work tomorrow. Well, that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, you have to, people used to ask me when I do Rocket, because we did 3 seasons of Guardians, and people would say to me, how do you do that without, like, you do a 4-hour session. Well, yeah, we do a 4-hour session, but we do it in little chunks. And also, I'm not really straining my voice. I just kind of sound like I am, and I don't know how to explain that. Sorry.
You know who has the answer, except we can't get him.
Yeah.
Is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, because he screams all night, and he sounds like me. So maybe he's like Trevor. Like, I don't have the answer other than that intensity answer.
That's a great. It's a great way to put it. Is looking at the speedometer. Okay, well, I know I got to hit 100 miles an hour here, so I can only go 50 most of the time. Otherwise, I'll blow the engine out. Right. You know. We do video games, especially video games. Oh my God. I play a character called Mac in the latest Gears of War game, Gears 5, and he's a Scot, of course. And he's, it's a Gears of War game. So there's, oh no, I'm being shot again, I'm burning alive for days and days. Grenade! Ah! Okay, but now louder and longer. Okay.
We're not seeing your vein
most of the
yet,
directors,
right there.
Most of the directors we work with, well, I work with, I've been lucky in this. Most of the video game directors know that, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna get you to do it once, and we're just gonna
actually,
take a
I found
little
they're
break.
very good here.
They're getting better.
They're getting much better.
They're getting a lot better. And I kind of going along that line. The one thing that I would say is, especially if you book a job like that with a character that's that kind of textury thing, get really clear about redirection. Make them tell you, because they'll a lot of times they just don't know what they want. Okay, so they'll be like, okay, could you do it again and just be more upset? So if I'm doing a character like that, I'll say, okay, when you say more upset, do you mean louder?
That's really
or
good.
do you mean more flustered to himself or whatever? And then they'll be like, well, not louder, just more, just more put upon. Okay, cool. Then that saves me 2 takes of having to do it.
Try and read their mind.
Right, while you try to read their mind. And the same with video games. Like, if I've given one scream, like I've gotten more and more protective of my voice on video games. And if I've given, I'll ask a lot of questions. Okay, so she's burning to death. How long is she burning to death before she actually chokes on her own blood? And this is true. These are like verbatim things that I will ask. And they'll be like, oh, okay, well, just like one like quick like, and then she chokes on her own blood. And that also helps, like, if you can have them say, I've saved myself 2 takes of something that could really hurt me. And so, like, let's say I do one scream, I'm like, that's cool, but, can you do another one, like, longer? Okay, so when you say longer, like, how long do you mean? And they'll go like, about that long. Cool. That gives me the timing. And that's where the music background comes in, because I can kind of hear if that's how long that is. Right. Or they'll be like, well, I mean, I guess that's kind of what you did the first time. So yeah, just give us one more take of that length.
And
I swear to God, it happens all the time.
That's true.
So make them specify, not at your vocal expense.
And that reminds me of something I want you to Google. It's William Shatner in a commercial session. Speaking of Canadians, he's one of us.
Mean
I'm just telling you right now. He feeds
boy.
back. He starts getting direction like that that's non-specific. And actually the guy starts, telling him how to read. And you hire William Shatner. You're going to get William Shatner, right? And he's so good. Just watch it. It's so good.
Maybe not the front
he's
row,
my idol.
but everyone else can watch it.
Oh, yeah, they're just, gosh.
No, I don't think he swears in it, does he?
He doesn't, I don't think he swears in that.
No, he's just
he
super
doesn't?
passive aggressive. No, I want to do it the way you want
That's
it.
literally, Ian's totally, that's literally what it's,
No.
no.
He says, no,
do
you
it.
tell me. You read it. Because
Yeah.
you just did earlier.
Yeah.
how was it again? And then, oh, Mr. Shatner, no, Mr. Shatner, you just, no. I want to hear you do it. Oh, Bill, I love you.
So that's another hour we've taken to answer that
Sorry.
question.
No.
How's that for a lightning question?
All right. Well, so and let me put real quick. Did you have one more thought, Ian?
No.
Okay. No. You're
Other
good.
than there's children, and they just put their hands up, but whatever.
We're gonna pick a kid question. The kids, they're the future. But let's so the end of that thought though. Any one of us would be happy to talk more about that. Be an advocate for yourself. I do a lot of creature work and have been very lucky to work with some great directors who never once complain when I say, I can do this voice for 15 minutes.
Right.
Or I can give you, is it okay if I do one take per line? Is that all right? And they'll never complain. And I learned that first chord working on God of War when I went through the whole session screaming in Norwegian as the Dark Elf King in that game. And the director was incredible. But there was a translator that knew ancient Nordic that was there making sure I pronounced it correctly after I had screamed it. So I had done it once, and they said that was really great, but when you go, you're really hitting the vowels a little too soft. And I'm like, I'm sorry. So I had that Nim Jim Pipakau stuff, and I'm going to the bathroom, like, which is they call it Hulk juice. Because Fred Tatasciore drinks
The Tatasciore special. Yeah.
If you want to talk more about vocal health advocacy, we're here for that. Children, do you have a good question for us?
Is there a difference in the way you prepare for animation versus actual video game work?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
The question was, is there a difference between preparing for an interactive or video game audition versus an animation audition? Good question.
I will just say that most of the time, video games tend to be way more realistic and filmic. Most of the time, not all the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Not all the time,
Skylanders
but
and
Most of the time. Most of the games that I've worked on are very serious film actor thing here. Yes, we're doing very serious things with great big guns and we're shooting aliens, lots of them. They're coming for us. Don't move your head too much. You're doing too much. Just hit your mark and say your line. Right, this is like film. Right. No, you're doing too much. But with animation, you've got a lot more, again, not all the time, because there's animations that are
there's a lot of different
very
types of
straight,
animation
but
too.
in my experience, that's kind of the big difference.
The one thing I would say is that always remember that with a video game, unless they're just giving you lines that are very conversational, that there's always a battle happening, or there's a battle about to happen. Okay, there's always video games. It's fighting. It's even if it's cartoony characters. There's a fight element. Okay, and I like to look at it as a box. Okay, there's a moment in the fight where you're on the offensive and you're winning. There's a moment where you're on the offensive and you're losing. There's a moment where you're on defense, but you're still winning. And then there's a moment when you're on the defense and you're losing. So if you can put that into any lines, like if you get a couple of video game lines and you're like, man, I don't know what to do with this, because you're going to get 1,000 pieces of copy that say, I'm not giving up until we fight this to the end. Over there, if we take our team in that direction, I know we'll find what we're looking for. Something like that, okay? So after about the 785th time, how do you say that line? So again, it's not right, it's not wrong, but sometimes I like to think of myself, okay, am I on the offensive? Am I winning on this line? I think if we take our team over there, we're gonna find what we're looking for. I think if we take our team over there, we're gonna find what we're looking for. It's two different things, right? But it's the same line. But you could tell that in one line, maybe I was victorious or things were going well, and the other one, things aren't going well. So keep that in mind, that there's always a fight happening, or there's a fight about to happen. Or there's a fight.
That's like my house.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
So you teach animation voiceover classes here at the Don LaFontaine Voiceover Lab, which this amazing panel is an extension of that program.
I wouldn't call it teaching. I mean, I guess it is.
Is it being Ian? Available on Amazon.
No, I do it here very specifically because I know it's actors that are SAG members, and I have a really specific. I'm not going to get into it. I like volunteering at the Don LaFontaine.
Well, how have your
Voiceover Lab.
experiences been, and what are some of the things that you like to teach actors?
What we're talking about right now, except it's one-on-one. Basically, it's like auditioning, and you come in with a piece of copy, or I give you a piece of copy, and you go in and do it, and then we talk about it, and here's what you could do different. Here's some thoughts, some ideas, and yeah, that's all.
Well, okay, and then final question for you, and Trevor, I want you to piggyback on this too. Lightning question.
Yes.
So you both had established voiceover careers in Canada for a number of years. What was the deciding factor to make the jump to join the Los Angeles film market?
I think Trevor has to answer that one first.
Trevor, you must answer it first.
I'm going to give you the. Okay, I'm just going to answer it. How's that? I was doing great up in Van. Great. Great career. It was awesome. Very similar community. Super easygoing, very welcoming people. It's fantastic.
Yeah, voice people are good.
Yep, fantastic. I did an on-camera job, which I never do, but I was asked by the creator of a show, who also did a cartoon I was on. He said, "Oh my God, you got to be the bad guy in this show." It's like, I'm not an on-camera guy, but okay. So I did this thing. It was Big Time Movie, which was the movie of Big Time Rush, which was a Nickelodeon show, and we were on Johnny Test, and I was playing Dookie on Johnny Test. And Scott Fellows, the creator, said, "Oh, you got to play the bad guy in the movie." I was like, "Okay." So I played the bad guy in the movie. It was great. And he said, "Oh, you were the funniest thing in the movie. You should go down and meet the executives at Nickelodeon." I'm like, "Okay, Mr. LA producer guy. Yeah, I'll be flying down to Burbank. A Canadian who can't work in the States. That's going to happen." A couple days later, I get an email. "Okay, they can't wait to meet you. Go down anytime." I'm like, "Oh, he actually did it. Weird. I guess I have to fly to LA now." So I did. And I met with them, and they were great. They were like, "Oh, you're so fantastic." And they got me in the booth, and I did my thing. They said, "Oh, that's so great. You should come down here." And I was like, I can't work here, right? "Oh, well, we'll figure it out." Okay. So then I talked to a bunch of other people that trip, and they all said, "Hey, you should really come down. You should come down." And I was like, "Okay, I'll look into it." So I looked into it. And it took me a year of looking into it, and the next thing I know, the whole time, I'm thinking, this is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. "There's your green card, sir. You have to move to L.A. "Okay, I guess I'm moving to L.A. "All right, well, it's never going to happen. I'm going to be here for like 6 months. I'll do a Disney princess guest star. And then I'll go home and get on with my life. It'll be fine." So I go down here, and within the first 6 months, I'm with SBV, and I book Rocket Raccoon, and more F is for Family, and on Netflix, and more Lego Star Wars and stuff. And I was like, okay, but this isn't going to last. This is, I tops 2 years. And then I realized I was working more here than I was back home. And I also realized that people back home were going, "Well, he's an LA guy now, so we can't bring him up to work. Because he's LA. And I was like, but I'm not going to stay here. I don't think, because it's not really working. I mean, I guess it's working, but it's not working as well. I guess I'm an LA guy. So that's what happened.
But who told you to go?
This man. Again, I'm not kidding when I say I owe you my career. He got me the meeting with Andrea, which led to SPV, but he also said to me, "You got to go down, man. You got to go down, because down there,
That's you. That's
there's
what
no
you sound
ceiling.
like.
There's no ceiling. It's up here, Canada, glass ceiling. Hitting your head. No, you got to go down."
That's my favorite. Somebody gift that. One of you kids gift that. That was great.
I really enjoyed that. It's true though, because I've been working off and on in LA. I've been able to work in LA since about 2000, because I came down to do a series called What's with Andy. It's really old. It was on Fox Kids, and I was like the token Canadian. It was a Canadian-American co-production. And there was some stuff they needed to fulfill, and I was lucky enough to be the main guy. So I got a taste of what it was like working in the environment here, and I really liked it. Yeah. I really liked it. But I had little kids, and I was like, I'm not moving. But I can come down to work, and Andrea would throw me a bone every time I was in town. Like, "Oh yeah, come on, you're on Superman." "Oh, great." So I didn't seriously decide to come here until I convinced Trevor to do it. because I wanted him out of the town in Vancouver so I could scoop up some more work for me. Anyway, so
First I heard of that.
so
Evil
We're all
Canadians.
learning a few things here tonight.
It sounds like to me the wall was built on the wrong side of the border.
Exactly,
Canadians,
exactly.
evil bad hombres.
so anyway,
Taking other voice jobs.
But do you see what I did, Trevor? Bad hombre.
that was
So I
good.
got an A at the end.
Bad hombre. Anyway, so Trevor comes down, and a couple of years later, I joined him because I went, yeah, because my kids were older, and I didn't need to be, they were going off to college and stuff. And I just went, speaking of glass ceiling,
Yeah.
I hit it hard in Vancouver, like bang, bang, bang. And, it's first world problem, right? Oh, yeah, you work too much. Mm-hmm. But, at a certain point, you get you saturate the market. And I do like the American attitude in terms of work.
You guys, yeah, I mean, we don't want to get in a big thing about how Canada works versus here, but it's really great down here most of the time.
Yeah.
In terms of how we're treated. Again, I had a great career in Canada. I love it up there. I love the performers. They're equally as talented as the people here. They're my brothers and sisters. I love them all. But there is a certain attitude towards voice actors up there, which is different than down here. For example, I get offered jobs here quite often where people will say, oh yeah, we want to make you recurring on this new animated show. And I'm like, did I audition for that? No. We just know your work and we like you, so you can. And I'm like, what? How does that, because that would never happen.
That's why I had to
in
create
Vancouver.
my own shows.
Right, seriously. Like,
I'll hire me.
never in a million years. And again, first world problems, we're all extremely lucky to be
Yes.
up here for sure. But there's an attitude of, oh, wait a minute, they trust me to do my job down here. Huh.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a bit of a change, eh? Oh, geez.
excellence is encouraged, and trying stuff is encouraged here. Not that we're making it sound like it's the Soviet Union
Like
or
the
something.
gulag.
It's not. But there is a general. Take it out of acting. The American spirit is very like, yeah, shoot for the sky. And you might miss. Most people do, but you got to try. And in Canada, it's a little, oh, geez, hey, well, I don't know.
Don't overreach.
No,
Don't overreach.
if I just keep right here, I won't get hit by the snowball.
Oh my God.
Oh, jeez. I didn't really say it, though.
We were just talking.
He didn't
we,
say snowball.
We were just talking earlier in the green room about this concept of crab bucket mentality. And crab bucket mentality means, so in the eastern part of Canada, Newfoundland, where it's like a little Ireland, they've got this real sort of strange accent up there, the Newfies, right? They're like
Newfies.
that, know what I mean? But they got
From
this thing
Newfoundland.
called a crab bucket. And so you go to a big crab boil, you take the crabs, you put them in the bucket, and then you're going to boil them and eat them. And every now and then, one of the crabs will try and make a break for it. But the other crabs grab them and pull them back down, as if to say, where do you think you're going, eh? That's Canada. That's Canada. When someone
And
goes
we're
down,
never
that-
crossing the border again. Thanks a lot, Trevor.
Except
I still have to go visit my mom. And I said,
no,
Mom.
it's true. That's the attitude. Is this now? You don't overreach. Don't think you can go down L.A. and make it
geez,
big, eh?
right.
Because you make the rest of us look bad.
We're going to be standing on the border, tapping our foot, going, all right.
so
Think you're big, eh?
I have just ruined my career
Yeah, way
this
to
whole
go.
evening.
That's
I
it.
really,
I'm glad
But
it was
that's
you,
okay.
Trevor. Usually
buried
it's me.
myself.
you've left the land of crab buckets and come to the land of red lobster and endless cheese biscuits.
Oh!
And on that note, this has been so much fun. We could do this all night, but we do have to wrap up. So
I got one
want
thing to say to the kids in
Yeah.
the front row. Hello, Pteranodon family. It's Buddy, Shiny, and Tiny. There you go.
This is so great. Well, let's give a huge round of applause for our amazing panelists here. We are Trevor, Kari, Ian. Thank you guys so much for your time. And you guys, take the spirit of community. Be kind to yourself. There's room in the pool for everyone, and we'll see you in the booth, okay? We'll see you in the crab bucket.